Hello and welcome to Empty Pockets, Off-Road and Overland. In this video, we're going to be talking about steering box braces for the Jeep Cherokees. Now the first question you might have is, why do I need a steering box brace? Now the main purpose or goal of a steering box brace is to help tighten up your steering. By keeping everything in place in that box where it needs to be, it's also going to help prevent those 3 steering box bolts from becoming loose. Now I've seen those become loose on many Jeeps, and the problem there is when they become loose, it allows the sheet metal on that side to become fatigued and it can actually crack. It can also allow the bolts to break. Definitely not something you want when you're off-road. Ultimately, the goal of the brace is to help with the added stress of running larger tires on these Jeeps. Now, from looking online and looking around, there seems to be 3 main types of braces for these Jeeps. And they kind of range from good, better, and best. Now, that first type is represented by the Mountain Off-Road or the MORE brace, which runs around $80. It attaches from the passenger side unirail to the box itself. I have read a few negative reviews talking about that without it being attached to both unibody rails, it can actually add stress by pushing and pulling on that box as the Jeep articulates and the unibody flexes a little bit going over obstacles. I think that brace is going to be perfect for someone who is just looking for a little bit tighter steering and is mostly doing street driving. The second brace is something like the Kevin's Off-Road. Now this brace attaches both unibody rails and it attaches to the box. Unfortunately, it only uses 1 bolt per side, but I think this is going to be a great option for someone like me who's not doing too hard of off-roading, and I think it's going to be great for both on and off-road. And it only runs around $100. Now the third type is something like the BoostWorks. That's going to run you around $285, but it is a very heavy-duty brace. It attaches both unibody rails using 4 bolts per side, and it also attaches to the box and the sector shaft. Attaching to both of those things is going to allow that box to last a lot longer. Now I think something like this beefy brace offered by BoostWorks is going to be best suited for someone that's running 37-inch plus tires or hydro assist or something like that and is doing a lot of heavy off-roading. Now ultimately I chose the Kevin's Off-Road brace for a few reasons. First is the cost. It is $185+ cheaper than the BoostWorks. The BoostWorks was also out of stock when I looked, and I realized that I probably don't need something that is so beefy for the type of driving I do, which is mild trails on the weekend and mostly pavement driving. So now that we've done a brief overview of the different types of steering box braces, we're going to go ahead and install this one. The first step is to remove the 2 rear factory sway bar bolts. Now the directions say to remove the front ones, but I couldn't get the brace to line up when I did that. Obviously I don't have a sway bar anymore, but luckily I kept the bolts because it does not come with new hardware for this step. These bolts are a 15mm. Go ahead and fish the brace up into its place. Now, years ago I bit off on the Durango steering box upgrade, and it required me, or the write-up I read, said something about adding extra spacers or using washers to space the box out a little bit more. So now I'm really hoping that I don't regret doing that. And I'm hoping that there's enough play in the mounting holes that I can get this to line up just fine. I think I'm going to be in good shape. I'm going to tighten these bolts, but just hardly snug so that they still have a little bit of play in them so that I can get the front of that clamp on. using the provided bolt and nylock nut, go ahead and put the front of that clamp on. All right, here's what it looks like completely installed. I used the furthest back sway bar bolt. There's the clamp on the passenger side. When I filmed the first part of that video you just watched, it was 100 degrees in this garage. Now it's around 35 degrees outside and I'm all bundled up. That's all to say it's been about a month at least since I filmed that. Originally, I planned on filming like you saw, going for a drive and coming back and giving you my first impressions. And if I would have done that, it would have been an injustice to the product, because my first impressions weren't as good as my impressions are now after I've been driving it for a while. Now, it did definitely improve my steering. It's not a night and day difference. It doesn't drive like a Ferrari or even like a Honda Civic for that matter. But I did notice after driving it for a few weeks that I was starting to take corners faster. The steering felt just a bit tighter. At the end of the day, the product is easily worth the $100 that it costs just for the insurance of knowing that that steering box isn't going to come out of place. Like I said it before, I've seen steering boxes come loose. Last year during our snow wheeling trip, Jeremy lost a bolt. What probably happened is he was already missing a bolt and the box was only held in by 2 bolts when we left, and then one of those 2 came loose. But he radioed and said that his steering was sloppy and he wasn't sure he'd be able to finish the day. Luckily, I had a spare bolt in my bag and we had another bolt that was long enough that we could run it all the way through and put a nut on the backside. Now on our last trip, where we were miles or hours away from pavement, it would have been a lot bigger deal if one of our boxes would have come loose and we didn't have the bolts to fix it. So this brace gave me the peace of mind while on that trip, knowing that even if I were to lose a bolt or break a bolt or strip a bolt, that steering box is going to stay in its place and get me back to pavement. As always, I hope this video was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment. And if it was helpful and you appreciate it, please like and subscribe.